Hi, welcome to Sask Moto. Wanted to tell my story about how I ended up purchasing the 2023 BMW G310GS. It all started probably about a year ago. I was camping with some friends, and my friend always brings his motorcycles out. He always has quads and a dirt bike and all that other stuff. And we were sitting around camp, and I was getting kind of bored. And he said, hey, why don't you go ride this motorcycle? So that's what I did. It was a older Honda CRF 230. And I was riding it down some dirt roads, up some hills and, dirt hills and stuff like that. And I found out, wow, that was a lot of fun. Then a light bulb came on. And as I was riding the motorcycle, I was having so much fun, doing all of this stuff. And I'm like, wow, I have a street motorcycle, but, I can ride, on the street and, around corners fast and go fast and all that other stuff. But I really can't go exploring on it. I've thought about going long distances on it before, and I have rode it, a few hundred miles, but I could never go off road. And then that aha moment came in. So I was thinking to myself, wow, this was fun, and how great would it be to have one of these motorcycles to ride around, off-road or on the street and be able to do a lot of things with. I started thinking that, well, that was fun and everything, but it was only a 230cc motorcycle, so I really couldn't ride it on the freeway. And I was thinking, wow, this is kind of a small bike for me. I'm 6'3", 235 pounds on a good day. And I was thinking to myself, I'd love to go on adventures and I'd love to explore. In my other videos, you can see me hiking and doing all that other stuff. But I wanted something that I could ride up to the mountains, dirt roads, and so on and so forth. So I was thinking, well, I can't ride that little motorcycle on the freeway. There's no way it would get me anywhere. And so I was thinking, well, maybe I should get a adventure bike, a bigger adventure bike. I looked into the BMW GS 1250 and started doing some research on that stuff and watching videos on it. And everybody was talking about how heavy they were and how hard it was for them to pick it up when they fell over. And it's not something that I really wanted to do. I didn't want to have this huge, heavy motorcycle that if it fell over, it'd take two people to pick it up. And, I like to do things on my own, so if I was by myself, how difficult would it be to pick it up? So I looked at other motorcycles. I looked at the KTMs, the bigger ones, as well as the Triumph Tiger. Looked at anything that was over 1,000 cc's and thought, man, that'll be cool on the freeway. It'll be cool riding it off-road and all that other stuff. But then I looked at the price, and that was an eye-opening experience. So I kept on looking around, and I started getting feeds on how so many people were thinking about downsizing their adventure bikes from the 1200s, the 1100s, and so on and so forth down to smaller bikes. So I looked into that more, and I started looking at any motorcycle that was under 500 cc's. So the first ones that I looked at was, of course, the Honda CRF 300L, which is a nice motorcycle, and I thought, I can use that off-road, but it's more off-road oriented. It's not something that you necessarily want to ride on the street. And the funny thing is, I went into a dealership and sat on it, and it felt like I was doing a wheelie. Because of my weight, the back suspension sat so far down, I thought, wow, this really dropped. and I don't think I'd be comfortable on it riding it, just because it would be sagging in the back for too long. And then I looked at the Suzuki DRZ 400, and it's the same type of thing. It's mostly an off-road motorcycle, and again, you know, doesn't do good on the freeway. And then the last one I looked at was the Kawasaki Versys 300. They're all nice motorcycles, don't get me wrong, and if you are used to riding dirt bikes, it'd probably be a great thing to do. I've had one dirt bike in my life, and it was a YZ250, a two-stroke, and all I did was ride it on track. I never rode it off-road per se, so I didn't have any experience on that. And I was thinking, I want something more of a bike that can do freeways as well as riding it off-road. And so it came down to 3 different motorcycles. One of them, of course, the BMW G310GS, and the next one is the KTM 390. And then the next one, and final one that I was looking at, was the Royal Enfield Himalayan, also known as the Tank. So what did I do after that? Well, I got rid of all the dual sport motorcycles that, you know, were in this category, and I started doing research on those 3 motorcycles. You know, looking at the KTM with a price tag of $74.99, and then the Royal Enfield on the other side was, you know, $49.99, and here the BMW is right in the middle at a price of $64.85. And, you know, I honestly paid a lot less than that out the door. The KTM Adventure has a 373cc engine. The Royal Enfield has a 411cc engine. And what was really interesting was looking at the horsepower between the 390 Adventure and the G310GS. They're not too far off as far as horsepower. And then you also look at the Royal Enfield, which has a very low horsepower but has a high torque. All the torques are about the same. And then, you know, you start looking at the seat height and all that other stuff. I'm kind of a tall person, so the higher the seat, probably the better. And then start looking at the weights. If you look at the weights, you know, the BMW is probably a pound less than the KTM Adventure 390. And then the Royal Enfield, well, that's a heavy son of a gun. And then I started looking at, you know, the top speeds, and they're very comparable in a sense that the KTM, you know, went 93 miles an hour or up to 93. The BMW was around 89. And then, you know, look at the gearing and all of that stuff. And so I compared all of that, looked at the gas tank sizes and all of that. And it basically came down between the KTM 390 and the BMW GS 310. Now, I know that KTM has all of these different gadgets and all this other stuff, but me being a traditional motorcycle rider, I didn't grow up with traction control or even ABS for that matter. And I think that traction control is great for the street, and it will help you, you know, from this happening. But I don't know that you can use it off-road. If you see a lot of videos, people that are using traction control off-road, it slows down the engine speed, and it almost sometimes bogs it down. So if you're trying to get through rocks and things like that, that will actually hurt you in that instance and could potentially help you crash. So to me, traction control wasn't a big deal. Now the ABS piece, yeah, it's great for going down hills and things like that. And lean angle traction control, I don't think that's necessary for me. I'm sorry. And lean angle ABS, I don't think is necessary for me. Just plain ABS is great, and with the BMW, it has ABS as well, both front and back. So the biggest difference too is, you know, then you're looking at, well, what other functions does it have? So the KTM Adventure has a nice screen on it, in a sense that it's very bright and very visible, where the BMW has just a traditional LCD screen. And I'm used to LCD screens, so I didn't need all of that other information. Besides, when you're riding, do you really need all that information? The BMW covered it in a sense that it had everything that you needed with regards to gear position, mileage left, fuel left, things like that. And so it has everything you need. It's just basic. The other one's just more purdy, if you will. So I didn't think that was necessarily a selling point. And the last thing you come down to is basically the looks. Now, obviously I'm biased because I have the BMW, but I love the look of the BMW. Just sitting there, it looks nice. And it looks even better when you put all the stuff on it. And, you know, there's going to be people that hate me for this, but the KTM Adventure looks like you are riding a yellow jacket bug. I just hate the front. I hate the headlights. It just doesn't look good to me. So there you go. Ended up purchasing the 23 BMW G310GS, and so glad I did. I'm not thinking that, oh, I wish I would have done this, or I wish I would have done that. I'm very happy with it, and not looking back, just going forward. So hopefully this helps you, and if you like the video, please subscribe, and we'll see you on the next adventure. Thank you.